like went all the way to the ocean, to the edge of the shore, and it was only like up to here on me, but my dog had been running after the ball, and I went to catch it, and I ran after this ball, and I was like running and went to scoop it up as I was running, and I just fell on my side in the ocean, and it was the funniest thing. Like, it was one of these things.
I'm getting scared. I'm like, oh my gosh, thank goodness she is here with us today.
Let's talk tales.
With over a decade of experience guiding business owners through growth and transition, my Tales with Taylor guest believes entrepreneurship should make room for the messiness and unpredictability of being human. She encourages people to build slower and with more intention, bringing back joy into their life and their work. My guest is a work-life strategist, creative partner, and founder of Moca, a collaborative business studio designed to help people build businesses that work for their life. She centers her work on helping people love their work again by creating something sustainable and aligned with their values. It's Jess Hershey. How are you doing today?
Good, so good. Thank you for having me, Taylor.
Thank you for being here. Cheers.
Cheers.
Favorite glass of wine, huh? Well, hopefully it's a good type of
It's
wine.
delicious, yeah.
So I always love to know the why behind a brand. So please tell me, what chose the name of Moca, the color schemes? Give me a little insight into the creation of Moca.
I love that. That's a great place to start. Okay, so the long answer. When I started about 10 years ago, I was Jess Hershey, LLC. Not a particularly creative name, but I was like, I need to call myself something.
Yeah.
But then as I started having a team and bringing more people in, they were all doing business and talking to clients under the name of Jess Hershey, LLC. And it just started to feel a bit funny. So we were searching for a name. About the same time, my brother-in-law came on and he built a back-end project management system for us. He does kind of the tech development. So he built this system for us and he was looking for a name for the system. And so he took my last name, Hershey, the chocolate and the fun there. And then this idea that we were trying to get after in supporting our clients, that was, I want to help entrepreneurs be able to sit in a cozy chair and have a nice cup of coffee and take the time to enjoy it while they look out the window and just have that peace again that we kind of a lot of us leave behind when we enter into running our own business. And so he took that idea of sitting and sipping that cup of coffee and my last name Hershey, and he came up with the name Moca for our back-end project management system. So as we were looking for a name to kind of pivot into for our new team size, we just kind of borrowed Moca and put it out there, and it represented this kind of development of what we were trying to do.
I love that. And there's so much similarities actually between you and I with that. So although we do business as Financial Potion, the LLC, which I established many years ago, is actually catering for my maiden last name, which was Luke, and I had Lukewarm Productions because the perfect cup of coffee, it's not quite too hot, it's not cold or room temp, it's lukewarm.
I love that.
That's
so fun.
So I almost feel like we need to have a coffee with this wine. And so, tell me the tale though of little Jess. Did you, were you a child dreaming of being an entrepreneur and a business owner, or, what were some of your dreams that you had when you were younger?
That's such a fun question. I wasn't dreaming of being an entrepreneur. I really didn't think entrepreneurship was for me. I didn't end up going into it thinking even that I was becoming an entrepreneur. But when I look back, I'm kind of like, oh, I've always been an entrepreneur because I always had a project. I always did things. When I was in grade school, me and my friend got a little booth that we set up at recess, and we had a paper where we drew in permanent marker all the little designs that we could draw, and then we charged people a quarter to draw a little tattoo on them at recess.
Nice.
So we send a bunch of kids home with permanent marker tattoos that I'm sure their parents didn't love, but I've always kind of done those little bits and pieces. But for me, it was this is fun. I'm going to do this thing. Mm-hmm. And so the idea of setting out to be an entrepreneur and starting a business was kind of it snuck up on me a little bit, but the traits were there.
Right. Yeah. It sounds like it. Hustling on the playground right there. Right. And so tell me the tale of, the building of this idea of this business. A lot of people will go in and say, I'm going to be a web designer, I'm going to be this, but you want to be a solution provider for businesses. So how did you get to that path of your business?
Yeah. So about 11 years ago, I worked for a company called the Moca Mom, and that was my first real exposure to entrepreneurship. My sister-in-law owned this company, and she brought me on, and I was like learning all the kind of back-end things, like how to upload a blog post and do all these things to like help them out. But it was this community of all of these mompreneurs who were trying to, like, they had kids that they wanted to stay home with and be, all about that, right? Being there and being present with them as they're growing up, which is so important and great. But they were trying to establish their own business so that they had the space to do that. And so I was watching them be really, really excited about what they were doing and the life that they were going to create for themselves. And then they were just kind of drowning. Like, they were there because they needed help, because they couldn't keep up with it all, because they didn't have any time to spend with their kids after all. And it was this kind of reality of looking at entrepreneurship and being like, oh my gosh, this is a lot of work, And so I wanted to help. My sister-in-law sold the company after about a year, and I ended up pivoting into becoming a virtual assistant. That was how I got started with Moca originally, or Jess Hershey LLC. Was when I asked them what they needed for help, they were like, I just want someone else to do this task for me. That was the first thing that came out. And so I started with the service of virtual assistant services to be like, I can do anything you throw at me. And that was my working solution at the beginning, to just be able to help support them. And now over the years, that's evolved, and we tried different things to be able to support them. I think the virtual assistant work was so great in so many ways, because you could be scrappy and be there how they needed you. But a lot of the times in entrepreneurship, people don't even have the capacity to be able to delegate. They're like, they're running. I have this like metaphor I tell people of, it felt like the person was running, and I was running behind them, trying to catch whatever they managed to like throw back behind them. And that was it, And so over the years, we moved more and more into strategy in the work and doing more organized projects, because they needed that kind of support. So to continue the metaphor, I tried to kind of slowly run up beside them, eventually run up in front of them and slow them down a little bit and say, what if we walked and we talked about this together? And moved into that kind of strategy project work. And that's kind of been our evolution.
Why do you think it's so hard for entrepreneurs to delegate?
You're trying to keep up with so many pieces, I think, is a lot of it. I think as an entrepreneur, you kind of go in with this idea of, I'm going to do this thing that I'm really excited about. I'm going to do videos for people. I'm going to, sell this thing. And you get really excited about that part of it, because that's what's driving your passion. But then you get in there and you're like, I need to market myself. I have to update my website. There's all these other things that kind of come with it. And so you have all these additional tasks floating around. And most of the time I find people are just keeping up with the day-to-day, and their day-to-day ends up being defined as write a social media post and then check in with your social media and then check in with it again and then answer your emails. And so it's just really easy to get buried in the tasks, whether they're real, whether someone else told you need to do them. You end up with a lot of work. So the idea of like delegation takes a real slowing down, being thoughtful about what you're handing off, and then it takes work to be able to give feedback and find that rhythm with the person. It's not as easy as just one time handing it off. So I heard a lot early on people saying things like, I would, but no one's going to do it as well as me. And I'm like, well, yeah, you have to like kind of work at it a little bit, So it's just, it is an event to be able to take that on.
Yeah. And it's definitely a mindset switch, because to say something like that, oh, someone's not going to do it as well as I, well, you need to find that person who loves Facebook or I don't post on any of our social platforms. I'll go on LinkedIn occasionally, but I'm not really one to want to be on social media. So you want to connect to those people who like truly love TikTok and want to be on TikTok to post to your TikTok, because they're also going to be more aware of some of the changes, especially when it comes to social media. The algorithms are always changing. The trends are always changing. And, shout out to one of my clients, Vanessa Shaw. She always talks about staying in your center of genius. And so sometimes I think entrepreneurs need to, get a little reality check of, okay, what is it that you are actually uniquely good at? And then say it's okay that you're not good at all these other things, and then find partnership,
Absolutely.
which kind of leads to how our journeys have gotten together. We've been strategic partners, which is phenomenal. And I absolutely love connecting with other experts, in the entrepreneurial world. Why do you find having strategic partners so beneficial?
Oh man, because otherwise you're trying to work in a silo. So whether that task that comes up, I need to post on social media 3 times a day. Let's say there you read an article and it tells you that's a best practice. You can just go on believing that and being like, this is what success means, unless you talk to other people and you get to see what they're doing. You get to have some feedback. It's just working in a silo is so hard and so lonely. So many entrepreneurs are isolated because we're used to being out and about with work colleagues, in an office. We're at home with our animals and our pets and our kids, which we love, right? Yes. That's so great. We get to wear pajamas, so great. But it is a little isolating. Mm-hmm. So being able to have people to have that connection, that community, and then also to bounce ideas off of, you get to learn so much. I think in my business, I've been so lucky to, by the nature that I get to work with so many other entrepreneurs and see their journey. And I can't communicate how much that has helped me move things forward faster, because I've got to learn lessons through so many people. I see what works for them. I see what doesn't. I get to see what being in business for 10 years looks like. And it's just having the experience of another person being able to access that is just a really powerful thing.
Yeah. So with that history then, what are some of the biggest pitfalls or issues you've seen business owners and entrepreneurs run into?
I think that a lot of people wait a long time before they get started on something, and they spend a lot of money up front trying to get set up. That is with new entrepreneurship, I see people being like, okay, I need the logo, I need the website, I need all these fancy things before I can even approach somebody about a sale. So they're 2 years in and all this money in debt. And I'm just so stressed for them. And then they get to the point where they're making decisions out of financial urgency, which is not anybody's best work, when you're in that place. So, so being able to get started in a more scrappy sense is definitely something I've learned along the way. And then bringing in support, like we talked about, it doesn't have to be a huge team. You don't have to scale and grow. I tell people all the time, because I think that can be a pitfall in itself, is you feel like you're supposed to grow. You don't have to grow. If you want a small business and that supports your life, wonderful. Stay right there. That's great.
Have your own definition of success.
Absolutely. Yes. But if you're just drowning in your inbox all day, maybe see if someone can help you with that. If you hate posting on social media, have someone else do that and see how much capacity that frees up for you. And I think that people wait a little bit too long before they're drowning, usually, to just get a little help in whatever that looks like.
Yeah, and then it becomes such an urgent factor. If you're waiting until you're, redlining an issues, then, you're just going to be going at it with a different mindset again. And I think mindset at the end of the day is just so important. You got to have the right mindset to, look at yourself in an honest way and say, what's the best way to move forward? And so who are ideal clients for Moca?
Yeah, so I have refused for 10 years to niche down in an industry.
Hey, I'm right here with you, sister. It's so much more fun to be industry agnostic.
But industry agnostic.
There's still mindsets or, psychographics and things like that.
Absolutely. So generally the people that we work with, they love their work and they love their life and they want to have room for both. It's as simple as that. So I have people that are brand new starting a business and trying to do it thoughtfully, people who have been in business for 10, 20 years and they're just very intentional about the way they set things up. Mm-hmm. But that kind of being really aware of how your business supports your life and how life comes into your business, those are my people. And I'm trying to kind of bring them all together to create a work culture where we can all work that way. And that can be a narrative that's out there instead of this, here's 5 tips for success in being an entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm. So you want to have people who want to have their cake and eat it with a fancy fork.
Exactly.
Yes.
Fancy forks are great, and cake is great.
I love cake. No, I'm not even the biggest sweet person, but I do love some cake. And you've also done a really good job at, building community amongst fellow entrepreneurs. So can you share with me a little bit about, your Moca community that you're building?
Yeah, absolutely. I felt like I had some resistance to starting a community because I didn't want something that was really busy, both for my people, because we all have a lot to do.
Yeah.
I don't want to give you a bunch more tasks. And for me, because for me, having a lifestyle that is supported by my business means not kind of being overrun by moderating and different types of things like that. So when I finally did start a community, I felt like it was important because I knew so many cool people like you that are like doing these awesome businesses and have big full lives. And I was like, I want to introduce them to each other because I'd have these individual conversations and they'd say the same inspiring, awesome things to me. They would be going through the same struggles. And, when we talk to each other, like we talked about, so much more can be accomplished. And there's just more comfort in doing what you're doing. And so I wanted to start a community to bring these people together. And I decided to start one in a way that would just confuse the heck out of everybody because I was like, I'm not going to do like a normal business community. So as I have been getting like my wording down with it, I've had to explain many times, like there is no place to chat with everybody. There's no place to log in. It's not that type of community. That's language I use a lot. It's not that type of community. I think about a community as in the real world sense where, you're in a neighborhood, you're all kind of living close together, or you have something that you're involved in where you all kind of share a similar value and you're coming together around that. That's the type of community I want to have. People coming together and kind of creating this space where they have similar thoughts and values. And so when you sign up for the Moca community, you're essentially signing up for an email list, and then you get invited to a monthly event. And we come together, and it's a way that is networking based more on connection and actually getting insight and feedback on where you're at in that moment, getting that strategic partnership instead of, kind of fluffy questions that you're like, I met some people, maybe they'll be a client, and leaving in that kind of capacity. So my goal is to bring enough people together, like I said, to kind of create a culture of work where people are working in a balanced way and they get to see other people doing that and feel like it's possible.
And I like that you're building more the strategic partner community versus, hopefully you'll get a client out of them. Hopefully, because really at the end of the day, we can do more working together.
Yeah.
And, I don't necessarily want to go into the web design world, but it's always good to be able to provide solutions. And so it's nice to have that community of trusted, entrepreneurs. Because that's another thing too. Your word is, so much value to that. If you refer someone, you're hoping that they do, 110 times better than what you would expect them to do, and you just get good feedback. And so building that community of strategic partners just allows you to, have that, valued connection to be able to share work. Because really, just because, you may not get that dollar by doing a referral, you're going to get that recognition. And, just like Maya Angelou would say, people aren't going to remember what you said, but they're going to remember how you made them feel.
Yeah.
And so when you're able to share a referral to someone because, you know that they're a trusted and reliable entrepreneur, and then when that client comes back to you and says, thank you, like that's worth more money than what it would be just to get that extra dollar.
Absolutely. And so many good things in our business come from real connections. Like, and that's even like the money when you get hard down to it, like getting the referrals, getting real connections with people. Like when you just have people that know you and know the value of what you do and who you are as a person, someone referring someone into you, a client into you, is always going to close so much faster. Right. They have that trust coming in, and that's really where so much happens. So I encourage a lot of my clients to stop thinking quite as much about just a social media focus or, different things like that, and to really don't forget about the connections of the people around you and valuing those people, because you never know what's going to come out of it.
So true.
Yeah.
And so I know through, business, hearing books or podcasts have been so beneficial just to have that continued education and learning. So tell me a tale that has really inspired you. It could be fiction or nonfiction.
Yeah.
But what are some of your favorite books or movies that have really helped you out?
This is such a fun question. I love books. I love reading. I love movies. I am a big fan of storytelling in general. I think it's just a wonderful way to communicate value and emotions and all of that. So I was kind of pondering this question when I had listened to you asking other guests this, and so many ideas came to mind. But one of the recent things that I have kind of rewatched that I just have really loved is the movie Yesterday. Have you seen it?
Ooh, Yesterday, no.
Okay.
I'll have to write that one down.
Yeah. The premise.
Is it like on the Beatles song?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So the premise that I don't think I'll ruin anything for anyone that hasn't seen it because it's on the trailer is that everybody forgets about the Beatles, that they ever existed, except for one guy.
I'm like, how is that possible?
Something that happens. And so there's one guy that remembers the Beatles and he starts playing their songs and like getting famous over it. Okay. And so it's this really cute movie. It's just fun in general. But a couple of the things that I really love out of it is one, it kind of shows this whole, do you need to scale and grow? Do you have a small business that fits you? Like this, what do you really want with your life? I think it's really easy to have some big ideas of what we think we want, you know? Like even I'll see somebody speaking, like this really famous speaker, and I'm like, should I do that? Oh no, I don't want to do that. I don't even want to speak.
Say that.
You just kind of get like pulled into things, you know? It's really interesting to see where you get pulled, someone else's version of success. But then the other thing is, what this movie really is about is how much people love the Beatles and the beauty of what they put out into the world. And I'm a big fan of the idea that we all have gifts to share out in the world, and you get to kind of leave that after you've like done the work to share it with people. And I wish more people felt confident in just saying, hey, I have this thing that I'm good at, that I'm excited about, and I want to go get it out there in front of people. I think that's a really just beautiful story.
Yeah, and it's also kind of speaking to, you don't necessarily need to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
You know, if there are things that are working and are good, I feel like a lot of times we get so worried about innovation, changing things. But if there's something that works and something that people are connected to, keep rolling with it.
Yeah,
you know, you don't always have to change like that. That's amazing that you just said Yesterday. I'm like, the Beatles?
You're right there with it.
Right there with it. And so, you know, a question I always like to ask too is, what's your favorite animal with a tail?
Yeah. I'm in the dog camp.
Man, thought we were going to be best friends.
No.
I like visiting dogs. So, okay.
Yes.
So do you have a dog then?
I have 2 dogs, yeah.
Okay.
I have a 13-year-old dog named Jax and a 3-year-old dog named Wally, and I love working at home because I get to be around them all the time. They're so great. My husband is allergic to cats, or we would have cats. So my sister has cats, and every time we visit, we get to hang out with her. So I'm not anti-cat.
It's just like I'm not anti-dog. I don't really love like that they don't use a litter box.
Yeah.
It really comes down to that. The litter box is such a convenient thing that I just go to, clean, and then you're done.
That's fair.
Yeah. But that is excellent. Yeah. So I would love to know, you know, what was one of your biggest challenges as you've been growing your business? What are some of the biggest challenges that you've faced and overcome?
Great question. I feel like setting boundaries was something I had to work really hard for. And this really ties into this idea of creating a business that works for your life. So we early on said we don't do urgent work. We plan our work ahead. And when you're a virtual assistant, that is something, you know, from our early days, that is something that a lot of people are just like, but virtual assistants do urgent work. That was kind of like, by definition, they assumed that. And it was a really interesting thing to see the things that happened when we were like, okay, this isn't how we work. Some people that really ended up being our people that we have now in this community were like, I totally respect that. And you know what? I'm going to go have more space in my life and stop doing urgent things. And I'm like, this is great. Another person that wasn't so much my ideal client said, just hire someone in China and hire someone. And he was like naming all these countries. And if you hire someone in each of these places, then you can do work 24/7 and always have urgent work on my table. And this is what I think you should do. And I was like, interesting idea. I think I'm not going to do that. But I got a lot of pushback from people about, you know, not running my life over to get them the thing that they needed. And I think because I had a team, of amazing people that I cared about, and like protecting them was a little bit easier than it can be sometimes to like just do it when it's yourself and say, no, I really don't, I'm not going to do this for myself. But the fact that I had people that I was like, no, I want them to be able to take off and go snowboarding in the middle of the day if they want to.
Right.
We need to schedule our workout. That was a really interesting curve for me that really took kind of years to cement and get in a good rhythm with our clients for, but it was totally worth it.
And, building a team is honestly I personally feel one of the hardest aspects of growing a business is finding the right people, finding people who are going to be as committed and passionate as you are. So how were you able to build such a great team, and what advice could you give to our audience who are looking to build that team and community?
Yeah. I often hired people based off of who they were versus the initial skills that they were bringing in. Mm-hmm. It's not like I didn't see some talent there in particular areas, but I was able to kind of like call that out and cultivate it a little bit instead of like hiring someone that came in with lots of experience polished in a certain skill. So it was always important to me that we had the right people, that we maintained a company culture, and then they wanted to do good work and they wanted to be involved and take care of each other. And that really took us a long way. But like you said earlier, having people work within their own strengths, like having people say, what do you really like to do? And let me give you an opportunity to do that makes such a big difference. Mm-hmm. It's true that like not everybody's going to be as excited about video editing as you are, right? But you maybe don't need somebody to do video editing all the time. Maybe you need someone to be really excited about a different area of your business. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's video editing, but whatever it is, like having people and bringing them in and being able to say, hey, I want to support you in this type of thing. And it's this two-way support instead of them just supporting you. That just changes everything. And then they're invested in you and you're invested in them. This goes the same way with our clients, by the way.
Right.
When you invest in them, they invest back in you, and it makes that relationship, and that makes everything better. Instead of just hiring out a task to be executed, there's a lot of issues, and that kind of build from there. So I really think of it as an ongoing relationship where you're getting to know each other, you're working on your communication, and you're continuing to like keep the door open on is this a good fit for you? Do we need to change your role a little bit? Mm-hmm. And that kind of grows the team from there.
And so do you do evaluations? And if so, how consistently throughout the year do you have these conversations with your team members?
Yeah, so we do quarterly check-ins. We called them health check-ins instead of calling them evaluations, so that people didn't come scared.
Yeah, I definitely do. I do quarterly reviews, which sometimes does feel a little scary. Like,
they come and they're like, oh my gosh. So a health check-in has so much more room to be curious and say, hey, how are things going for you? And you just get to have kind of that chat. So we do that, and then when we phase out of it, we kind of ask them to call out some things like, what do you want to work on right now to have us check in on the next quarterly review? And we do kind of written portion afterwards, but that feels like a really nice rhythm for me to be able to have that.
Yeah, I like the quarterly health check-ins. I'm gonna work that language into my vocabulary because it is important to see have things changed. We do got to remember that there's life outside of work, and so sometimes people might need less of something or more of something. And I think as a leader, we need to be a whole leader, not just within the work self, but in the life self. Because do you feel that there is work-life balance or work-life synergy?
I think synergy. I'm kind of getting to know this term work-life balance again and figuring out how I feel about it, because there's so much anti-work-life balance energy there. And I call myself a work-life strategist, which that's what comes to mind for people all the time, right?
Yes.
I really think we maybe need to remove a lot of our lines between work and life in general, which doesn't mean work all the time. That's where the work-life balance comes in. I think you need to have times that you work and you have times that you don't work. But I think your work should have life in it in a way that a lot of people have lost. Like they think about it as a job, but they started it because they were excited about doing that thing. And when you bring back in excitement and creativity and passion, different things are going to happen in your business than if you treat it like a day-to-day job and you're just going and doing the thing and doing the task and being in the day-to-day. So I'm trying to find right now a way to be able to kind of keep the separation so neither runs over the other, but to be able to integrate in a different way that we've kind of stepped out of.
And so obviously people should hire you to have a deep dive into that strategy, but could you give someone maybe one tip or one bit of advice in order to help them have more of that synergy or bring more life into their work again?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the biggest bit of advice that I could tell people, this very much speaks to my own experience, is find ways to stay grounded, whatever that means to you. So for me, I like to journal in the morning before I start work. That helps me just like stay in touch with myself into a different level. But walks, meditation, yoga, people going to the gym, like whatever it is that really helps you stay grounded and connected to yourself. It's really easy in the day-to-day of your business to lose that connection and to kind of forget why you're doing what you're doing or even what you're doing sometimes. And when you're in a grounded place, you can make more intentional decisions. So when something comes up, you can say yes or no to it based on whether it's actually aligned because you're in that grounded place. You can stop work at 5 o'clock because you want to go do other things for your life, You can put different heart into your work. So however you can stay grounded, which I also think can change depending on your phase of life and what you have going on. I'm just trying to continually seek that and make sure that I can be in a place where I'm connected to myself and making intentional decisions how I move forward.
I love that. Love that. Yeah, one thing I personally do is I color code my calendar. And so green is like my personal time, my personal things. I've red for video shoots, blue for general meetings, and then yellow for just like don't schedule anything.
Love it.
Just like,
so good.
Just don't schedule anything, breathe, or, get a task done, or do, that's almost like my ambiguous, like, do whatever you need to do right now time.
Yeah.
And that way too, for myself, I can look at the calendar and go like, is there too much of one color or the other? Now, granted, if it's too much green, that's not necessarily a problem, too much personal time, but it's able to look at it and go, wow, like I have a lot of red and blue. It makes me then say, I need to add green. I need to add something fun that the family and I are going to go do. Because without that visual reminder, I'm much more visual, hence, being in video, I guess that makes sense. Visually, if I don't see those, kind of rainbow of colors, then I feel like I'm swayed one way or the other. So even if I had a full week of green, maybe we're on vacation, that next week, I want to see some reds and blues and I want to mix it in just to keep it more fun and vibrant.
I love that. Having the visual is so nice because it's really easy to lose track of where time did go. So having that visual and the color coding, that's beautiful.
Because then also you can reflect back. If you go, sometimes in business, I feel like we just maybe get in a slump. Maybe it's a slow month and you just go, gosh, like have I been successful? But then you can go back and go, wow, look at all those reds, look at all those blues, and
visually see it in a snapshot. Yeah. Absolutely. That's great. Good method.
Thank you. And so as someone who is, a solution provider, what are some of your favorite softwares that help you with your solutions?
Favorite softwares. I definitely encourage people to find what works really well for them because there is I tend to be a more visual person as well. So I love Trello personally.
Okay, yeah.
I use Trello because I can see things and I can move them from one space to the other. Yeah, that feels really nice. My mind does not work well with something like Asana. That is just that is too much information.
Very listy. Yes. For someone who doesn't know, these are all project management software.
Yes.
And so, the beauty of having some sort of project management software is that it's not all in your mind, especially as you're collaborating and adding team members. We all need to be on the same page. And so you like Trello. We actually use ClickUp.
Okay, yeah.
Similar-ish to Asana.
Definitely.
So, yeah.
But they also have different interfaces, I feel like, that are more, friendly.
Right. You can change up how you want to see your dashboard.
Yeah. So having a project management system is really nice. So many people, I see them having so much information in their heads that they need to get out, especially when you're trying to grow a team.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, it's so easy to say, I don't understand why you didn't handle this task a certain way, but it's because all the information lives inside of your head. To really delegate it, to really bring people on, and to not be constantly training, you have to get that information out. So having some kind of project management system is so helpful, and that's usually where I start. Even if it's just yourself, it can be so nice to keep track of things and make sure nothing falls through the cracks. But I I think that everybody's needs with software a little bit different. I don't have any that I'm for sure like everybody needs to get on this thing. I have this lovely woman that I work with, Karen Joy Fritz, who she will come in and help you figure out what you need based on your particular personality and then help get you set up with it. So I send her in a lot of the time to do that type of thing. Right. Probably my main advice for people is don't inundate yourself too much with a bunch of different platforms and systems before you need it. Again, starting simple, starting small, experimenting a little bit so you know what you need before you go into something fully.
Totally. But that's a great bit of advice, though, that even if you're by yourself, consider having some sort of project management software. There's tons of different kinds. Find the one that works best for you. But as you grow, you already are saving your time. You have those SOPs, already written down. And then it's a matter of like, hey, study this, learn this. Yeah. And then be able to just keep moving forward versus if you hire someone and go, oh, I could do it better. Well, it's because you left everything in your mind. And now you're spending all this time trying to reteach when you could have just documented the whole time. That's definitely one thing I wish I would have told myself, at an earlier stage in business is to document processes because I feel like I spent a lot of time just keeping it in my own mind, just saying like, I know the process. I know what it is. It's going to take too much time to write it down. Well, choose your hard. Do you want to spend the time now or do you want to spend the time later?
Yeah. And it is amazing, even for yourself, writing down the system or writing down the template that you send out when you like greet a new client or get them ready for an interview. It's crazy how much that saves you time to be able to grab that template or follow that process even when you know it. Yeah. It creates ease and it creates consistency. So all of a sudden you're showing up more professional for your client because you didn't drop any part of the process because you have this SOP to write out. Maybe you have a busy day and you forget to get them their glass of wine or something like that. Like it's nice to have that system written out and you send a template and the template's the same every time and it includes all the pieces and it's just all of a sudden you've kind of up-leveled yourself just by taking a little bit of time to write it down. So seeing the value of that, just great idea.
Yes.
Yeah.
So one of the buzz topics I feel of business the last couple of years has been AI.
Yeah.
So how have you been implementing AI into your business?
I am such a relationship-oriented person that the number one way I'm implementing it is in helping me maintain my relationships better.
Okay.
And this is kind of an interesting approach, I feel like, from what a lot of people
bring to this. AI being a human connector, I need to hear more here.
So I use Otter to come into my meetings. So transcript service, when I'm doing a meeting with anyone online, Otter's in the background listening and taking a transcript. This allows me to be a better listener. So instead of I'm taking notes over here and I'm not really looking at you and making eye contact, I get to just be there fully with them and listen and ask better questions. And I love that in my meetings. So that's helped me show up better to the meetings and have more depth in them. And then I have those notes to kind of refer back to and give a summary. So after my meetings, I'll go into Otter and I'll say, hey, give me some bullet points of the personal things that Taylor mentioned in this call. Oh, she's got cats. Oh, she's got kids. These are the things that it kind of spits back out to me. And then I do a professional list and kind of just big picture update on the person. And I bring that into my CRM system. Okay. So next time I talk to Taylor, I get to get onto that CRM system, click on Taylor and give myself a little 5-minute refresh before I get on because I'm trying to be really great friends with 300 people right now. And that's a hard thing to do. We have limitations there. So being able to store those notes and bring back the memory of like, oh my gosh, I really wanted to ask Taylor how her 6-year-old is doing because he was just about to start this thing, Yeah. I love being able to like have that level of personalization. And then bringing that into something like ChatGPT, I'll use that often to bring the transcripts into it and help me kind of think through a problem that I'm trying to solve for a person. So this was something that they mentioned. I think these ideas would be there and kind of like having that thought partner to have the depth of the relationship and have ChatGPT be able to pull out patterns. Like, oh, in 3 of the calls, it's, this person has mentioned this thing and it feels like something to maybe pay attention to. Those are AI is so great at pattern recognition that I might miss. And so being able to pull that out so that I can make the strategic decision from there with that pattern having come to light has been a really helpful tool as well.
Excellent. That's the first time I've heard someone say like a true human response to how they use AI. Normally it's, it writes my blogs for me. It, does my charts for me, does Excel, calculations. But that's so great that, you're able to take it and with, like you said, the patterns. If someone's consistently saying a topic or that they're having this issue, like that needs to be a red flag kind of in your own mind. But sometimes we're so inundated and active listening can be a little harder than it sounds sometimes.
Yeah.
That when you do have that, second set of ears really just giving you those types of notes, that just helps you just be more unique in your approach and, more personalized in your follow-ups.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a really fun tool for being able to show up better in my relationships.
Yeah, and making those personal notes are so important. Like if someone just had a birthday or if like their family member's sick, you want to be able to be human and ask about those things, because even if you literally just send a message like asking like, hey, how's your mom doing? Are they feeling better? And nothing else, like that's going to hold, so dearly in that person's mind and heart that when they are ready to take that next step forward in your business, they're not going to look to anyone else because they're going to be like, wow, like Jess really cared about me and, knew to ask about how my mom's doing.
Yeah, that's where that real connection comes in that makes all kinds of differences, and you don't even know what's coming. You might randomly be on an interview in Arizona,
right?
Here you go.
Right? Which, you're here all the way from Idaho. And so, tell me, how has your trip been here in Arizona? What have you thought of Arizona so far?
So great. I really love it. It's funny. It's like not that far, obviously, but it's such a different world. Like having, I'm such a big, like, leaf tree kind of person. I live in like the most trees in Boise is where I live.
Fun.
And so being here and seeing just like a cactus is just the craziest thing. Like the environment is so interesting, and I feel like being in a different environment stirs up so much creativity, and you get different perspective just by like being in a different space around different people. And I've really enjoyed being here. It's been a lot of fun.
That's awesome. And although this has been our first time seeing each other in 3D, like I truly feel like we've already have met before. Like we've already know each other. And it's just through those, personal connections, online. We had a pleasure of, working together with a client together for some time and then have just stayed connected. And so I think that's where, I feel post-COVID, some people are so anti going virtual, so zoomed out. But you shouldn't totally neglect a tool like that because there's still a lot of opportunities to connect with people across different states that you might meet in 3D one day.
Absolutely. And it's so funny. Like you said, you and one other person I met in person for the first time on this trip.
Yeah.
But both of you, I've talked on Zoom so much that I feel like I know you. Absolutely. And it's this funny thing. You're going to see someone in person and you're like, am I going to recognize them? Do I know what is it going to be like to be with them? And you start to get nervous and you're like, oh, it's just like being online except better. Like I get to know so much more about you, but I feel like I already know you. I'm already comfortable with you. And it's a different thing to be able to be here with you. And I love that. But there is so much value in connecting in the virtual world. And I do phone calls with new people every week to be able to meet new people. And then someday, hopefully, I get to meet them in real life, and definitely recommend just meeting new people and focusing on connection does so much.
Yeah. And I think people need to remember that social media is supposed to be social. And so when you make that new LinkedIn connection, don't just leave it on LinkedIn. Move it to a virtual Zoom meeting or, pick your other virtual platform and then move it to an in-person if you're able to in the future.
Absolutely.
There's a lot of ways to, grow that book of contacts, not necessarily book of business, but that book of contacts, which I feel sometimes people feel a little stagnant. If they're in a community where maybe there aren't as many entrepreneurs, they don't go out, but there are so many resources like the Moca community that you can just get connected online to get started.
Yeah, absolutely.
So tell me a tale you wish you would have told your younger self. It could have been your, first year in business self, or it could have been, your teenage self. What's a story you wish you would have told yourself?
I have a funny tale that has come to mind that is kind of just representative of the idea that we're going to run out of energy someday and things aren't always going to be the same.
Yeah.
Oh, when I was living in San Diego, I was playing fetch with my dog on the beach.
That
And
sounds lovely.
it was so great. We would do it every day. But the tide was coming in, and this particular beach just disappears when the tide comes up. And so a big wave came up and just like went all the way to the ocean, to the edge of the shore. And it was only like up to here on me. But my dog had been running after the ball, and I went to catch it. And I ran after this ball, and I was like running and went to scoop it up as I was running, and I just fell on my side in the ocean. And it was the funniest thing. Like, it was one of these things.
I'm getting scared. I'm like, oh my gosh, thank goodness she is here with us today.
It was just like hilarious. It was one of those instances where you think you can do something and then you go to do it, like especially like a physical athletic thing. You go to do it and you're like, oh, I can't do that
now. With my son playing sports, it's me every day. I used to play sports, and now I'm mid-30s. I'm not as athletic as I used to be.
Yeah. Those are very memorable moments when life is just like, oh, you're not as young as you used to be, you know? And I think that's one of the things about like being young is just you don't ever imagine it being different. Like, even though people try to tell you. But maybe if I told myself, I'd listen, to just be like, hey, someday you're not going to have as much energy as you have now. Someday things are going to be a little bit different. So choose how you spend your time and what you put your energy into. And I don't know what I would have done different, but that's probably what I'd go back and tell myself.
Well, it sounds like you're telling yourself that regularly because you've aligned your whole business around that.
Yeah. Yeah. Now I'm trying very carefully to use my time in a good way.
And so what would be one thing that you've got let go in order to use your time in a good way?
What have I let go? I think at different points of my business, I've had to let go of clients. And that's, I think, one of the hardest things for a business owner to do, because you're very focused on making the money, obviously, and this person's here that wants to pay you, but noticing what it is doing for you to be working with a person that is pulling you outside of your boundaries, even doing projects in a way that's like not the project you want to be focusing on. These little draining things make such a big difference. And I've had multiple instances in my 10 years where I've had to let go of a client for when we were doing project work. I had to let go of a client in a way that was so hard to do because I truly wanted to help. Yeah. But the space that it made for me to be able to do other things was just crazy. It's just, it's amazing what opens up when you're really doing things that are in alignment for you. So that's what comes to mind.
Yeah, I feel like we need to redefine the word selfish, because a lot of times we're growing up and we're here, you shouldn't be selfish, you shouldn't be selfish. But when you get older, you realize this is my life and I only get one life. That if you are consistently doing things for other people to help their dreams and their aspirations that maybe isn't aligned with yours, it's important to be selfish because you only have so much time and so much energy in order to do things.
Absolutely. I think a lot of people see it as kind of this one option or the other, where you're just completely selfish and don't listen to anybody else's advice or do anything for anybody, or you're just like giving everything and doing everything for everybody and you can't do anything for yourself, can't take a break. I know people on both ends.
Right. Yes.
And there's really this in between. Like, you have to, in order to support people in whatever you're doing, you have to fill your own cup. You have to be grounded. You have to be feeling like you're taken care of so that you have that energy to give to other people. And I think, you're right. Having that middle ground is so nice. That doesn't have to mean selfish in that sense of the definition. Let's redefine this and be like, maybe you need to take care of yourself.
Yeah. And it reminds me of one of my clients, the Gap View, Paul Sim, and John Coyne. They always talk about like, what's your North Star? And so it's like, when you are making any kind of business decision or anything like that, does it align with your North Star, the ultimate goal of where you want to go? And if the answer is no, That's okay.
Yeah.
Because also the other thing is you can join a community where you meet a bunch of people and might go, okay, this isn't a fit for me, but maybe you can talk to so-and-so. Like, I feel like that's so important. If you truly are a person who's a solution-oriented person, a helper, someone who wants to help people get to where they're going, maybe the answer isn't you, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But then you can at least be like, oh, talk to Jess. Oh, talk to this person. Oh, talk to that person.
Yeah.
So then that way you could also still kind of fill your cup a little bit of going like, I helped them.
Yes.
You know?
So much easier to let go if you have a great person you like to send someone to.
Exactly. Because then you're like, I helped that client. I'm helping this person, as long as there's an alignment there.
Mm-hmm.
But then also you don't have to worry about, not following your North Star or not following your values.
Yeah.
Just because it's just not a fit. And that's okay.
I love that.
And so how can people get a hold of you? How should be people getting a hold of you if they want to join the community or if they just want to learn more about how to strategically work with you in order to, get more aligned and, bring more joy back into their work and life?
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to be connected. That would be great. I'm on LinkedIn often, so LinkedIn is a great place to connect with me. Jess Hershey, I'm on there. You'll see me. And then if you want to get on a call, because I love coffee chats. Like I say, I meet with new people all the time. And you reach out to me at hello@mocateam.com. I would love to get on a call with you and get to know each other. And, who knows what will come of it. Maybe you'll get to join the community. Maybe I'll introduce you to someone else cool. Whatever it is, I love to connect people. I love to be able to meet new people.
Awesome. So we'll make sure to have all those links in the show notes. And then if someone was to walk away with just one last piece of information or advice, what would be that advice you'd give to someone?
Build a business that works for your life. If you're going to go in and you're going to build a business, do something that really works for you and is really what you want. So when you're dreaming about maybe your North Star, whatever it is that you want your business to be down the road, also think about what you want your life to be. Sometimes those things don't match. Like I was saying, being an international speaker where I would be traveling all the time, would I actually wish I was spending more time at home? Like thinking about the life that you want and having that be part of your vision as you build, I think is so important and just so easily overlooked. So
true.
Build a business that actually works for your life.
I love that tip because it's so true. Like I still have these aspirations of, doing, feature films and, all those things. But when I look at the hours of being on set, it's like, I'd rather actually be making dinner for my kids. And so maybe at the end of the day, although it's not as glamorous, like I'm right where I need to be. So that's so important to really, realistically look at both of those lines. What is that work life that you want to have? What is that life that you want to have?
Yeah.
And if you need some assistance strategically coming up with that, Jess is an awesome gal, as you can tell, and someone here who's really going to help you bring joy back into your work, back into your life, and just make sure that you figure out what is that North Star and then have the solutions in order to get there.
So thanks so much, Taylor.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here and taking the journey. So everyone enjoy life a little bit more and do what makes you happy. Thank you for watching Tales with Taylor. Please make sure you like and subscribe to the Financial Potion YouTube channel to never miss an episode.